Major,
What is it?
about this gunship you sent to Tselinoyarsk.
Yes?
How in the world did you manage that?
Manage what?
That's a special operations craft that hasn't been tested in actual combat, right?
That's exactly right. The plane, originally a special operations cargo aircraft based on the Air Force's C-130 transport, has been customized just for this mission. It can fly solo into Soviet territory to insert or retrieve special forces, and it has all the needed specs for this mission. It has a maximum speed of 380 miles per hour, cruising speed of 335 miles per hour, and a maximum altitude of 33,000 feet. For electronic equipment, it boasts terrain following and terrain avoidance radars, an inertial navigation system, radar alarm system, and a forward-looking infrared device. It even has chaff and flare dispensers. It's also equipped with enough firepower to dispense of forces that may attack you during your exit maneuver on this mission. 2 40mm machine guns and 2 20mm Gatling guns. Even the upper armor of the Soviets' main battle tank, the M62, is 30 to 36mm on the turret, 30mm on the body, so the gunship has plenty of power to take them out. And, as you said before, even if you were attacked by a tank unit, you'd be safe and sound.
Very impressive, but...
Isn't it, though?
Yeah, but how did you get it here?
Must you ask me that question?
Yeah.
You sure? Now?
Is there some reason I shouldn't?
Yes, I'd say so.
Understood. Forget that I asked.
I will. Snake, stay alert. The KGB and GRU both have their sights set on Sokolov. GRU is a military espionage outfit, the intelligence wing of the Soviet Defense Ministry's General Staff Office. It competes with the KGB, which is under the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and the two are always watching each other.
Never let the left hand know what the right hand is doing.
Exactly. Now, added to that rivalry, there's a vicious power struggle going on between the Khrushchev faction and the anti-Khrushchev faction.
So Khrushchev is using the KGB, and Volgin and the anti-Khrushchev forces are using the GRU?
That's the idea. The two factions are fighting over Sokolov. We're in an extremely dangerous situation here.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Major, tell me about Sokolov's past work.
I assume you already know that Sokolov was the developer of the multi-engine cluster. The multi-engine cluster is exactly that, a system for fitting a single rocket with multiple engines. The Vostok rocket, for instance, had 32 engines. With the technology they had, it was difficult for the Soviets to develop large engines with massive thrust. So instead, they decided to focus on using multiple smaller engines to achieve the desired thrust. With this method, though, maintaining the fuel balance between the various engines was a major problem. Sokolov was the man who provided the solution.
And that's what earned him the job as the head of the design bureau?
Apparently so.
So this secret weapon is some kind of ballistic device?
Well, that's my best guess. We don't know for sure, but...
You'll find out soon. As soon as I get Sokolov out of here.
I'm counting on you. Snake, the fake death and revival pills we gave you are the latest in internal medicines developed for intelligence ops by the CIA's technology division. You can use the fake death pill to send yourself into a death-like state for a limited period of time. Use it wisely, and you should be able to fool the enemy into thinking you're really dead. It may come in handy if you ever find yourself cornered. To revive yourself from the fake death state, use the revival pill. But remember, timing is critical. The effect will be ruined if you revive right in front of your enemy.
Interesting. But how does it work?
What do you mean?
I don't feel right taking some pill I don't know anything about. How does it make me look dead? How's it going to affect my body?
Well, Snake, about that...
I get it. I should ask Paramedic. Paramedic.
Allow me to explain. You know how there are animals in nature that play dead, like weevils, ladybugs, chickadees, possums, and the like? Well, the fake death pill takes the natural art of playing dead and applies it to the spy world. When you take the fake death pill, it causes your body to rapidly secrete a number of chemicals. Adenosine and serotonin, as well as opioid peptides, such as methionine and kethylene. Those chemicals act to induce a state of hibernation, causing your heart rate, your breathing rate, and your body temperature to drop dramatically. It'll truly look like you've dropped dead upon initial inspection. The revival pill, to put it simply, is a counteracting agent to the fake death pill. When you take it, it causes your body to secrete stimulants like noradrenaline and other chemicals such as naloxone, which block the effects of the fake death pill. Basically, it wakes you up. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try and explain it in more detail. The secretion of methionine and enkephalin triggered by the fake death pill causes the opioid receptors.
Oh, okay. I think I get it now.
You sure?
Yeah.
But you must want to know a little bit more. There are 3 types of receptors: delta, kappa, and mu. Methionine and enkephalin acts on the...
Paramedic, I think Snake understands now. Isn't that right, Snake?
Yeah, clear as crystal.
But...
Major, I've got enough info about the pills, so I'm going to get back to the mission now.
Yes, you do that.
Hey, wait a...
Major, what kind of place is this secret design bureau that Sokolov is heading?
The Soviets have a number of secret design bureaus like this one, each engaged in cutting-edge research. OKB-1, the bureau where the Voskhod spacecraft was developed and which plays a leading role in the Soviet space program, is one of those installations. Most of them are located in secret cities built in isolated areas, and we don't even know their exact locations, much less the nature of their research. And Sokolov's OKB-754 is the most secret bureau of them all. The intelligence communities of the West have tried time and again to find out what they're working on, but they've failed consistently.
So you have absolutely no idea what Sokolov is developing?
We've got nothing.
Then how did you get the information for this mission? It can't have been from Sokolov.
From the boss.
The boss?
That's right. She has her own intelligence channels that she cultivated during the last war. She shared what she learned with us. That we were able to get the green light for this mission at all is thanks to her pull with the powers that be at the CIA. In other words, this mission would never have come together without the boss's help in a number of respects. I'll be your eyes. Makes me want to cry.
Why's that?
It reminds me of something a certain spy once said. His name was Oleg Penkovsky, a Western spy who worked inside GRU. He was arrested by the KGB and executed last year. They say he sent a letter to the DCI at the time saying, "I must remain on this front line in order to be your eyes and ears." His code name was Hero.
A hero whose name will never be known.
Yes. That's the world we live in.
Why would a mushroom glow in the dark?
It's bioluminescent, just like a firefly. It uses the so-called luciferin luciferase reaction. To put it simply, luciferin reacts with luciferase in the presence of magnesium 2+ ions, breaking it down into oxyluciferin and carbon dioxide. The carbonyl groups in the oxyluciferin are initially in an electrical excited state. When they return to their base state, they give off light. Did you get all that?
Not really.
Oh, Snake, I looked at your medical record. You've been exposed to an atomic blast?
Yeah, the Bravo shot. It was a hydrogen bomb test conducted at Bikini Atoll on March 1st, 1954. I was at the American base on Kwajalein in the Marshall Islands when the ashes of death started falling from the sky.
Any symptoms?
None. At least, not yet. But a lot of the guys who were in it with me are now suffering from thyroid cancer and leukemia. Some of them are dead already. One of these days. Anyway, I'd better get back to the mission.
Yeah, Snake, whatever happens to you, make sure you leave a descendant, okay?
Are you saying you want to have my baby?
No. I'm saying that in the 21st century, the genes of soldiers like you are going to be in high demand.
Genes?
Uh-huh. Remember when Watson and Crick discovered the double helix structure of DNA back in 1953?
No.
You know, they won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for it the year before last. Of course, you have to feel sorry for Pauling and Franklin. They were researching the exact same thing.
Sorry, I don't follow.
Inside every living creature are little blueprints called genes. Through the union of the sperm and egg cells, these blueprints are transformed and inherited by the next generation. That's why parents and children resemble each other. The concept of genes was first proposed over 100 years ago by Mendel, but he didn't know what they were exactly. For a while, it was thought that chromosomes were composed not of deoxyribonucleic acid, but of proteins called polypeptides. Later, it was shown that deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, was a biological macromolecule. Then 11 years ago, Watson and Crick discovered that DNA had a double helix structure.
Yeah, this is all fascinating stuff, but what exactly does it have to do with me?
The inherent characteristics of any given individual are determined by his or her genes. By duplicating a set of superior genes, a separate body with the same set of characteristics, a clone, can be created.
But genes don't control a person's fate.
That's true, but having an offspring that's genetically identical to the parent is more efficient, right? You can expect better results that way.
More efficient? You can't mass-produce human beings.
Maybe, but now that we know the true nature of genes, human cloning is that much closer to reality. Nuclear transplanting is already theoretically possible, so one day...
My genes are going to be a valuable commodity.
Exactly.
They'd never let that happen.
Just think, even if your body dies, you survive and go on to bigger and better accomplishments. If you think about it, it's kind of an honor.
Does that kind of technology seriously appeal to you?
Well, I am a doctor. I can't condone it on moral grounds, but I'm fascinated by the possibilities. Especially when I see such an excellent specimen as yourself.
Yeah, well, thanks for the compliment, but it doesn't make me feel any better.
Don't be so glum. It's not like it's going to happen anytime soon. We'll just have to wait and see.
I heard you fought against KGB troops in the Virtuous mission, but this time you're up against Spetsnaz. Spetsnaz is the Special Forces unit of GRU, the intelligence wing of the Soviet Defense Ministry's General Staff Office. Spetsnaz troops undergo rigorous training in all types of special ops, from assassination and demolition to intelligence gathering. That and Volgan's loaded, man. His unit is one of the best equipped in the entire Soviet Union, if not the best. I heard the enemies you encountered in the Virtuous mission were only carrying weapons like AKs and grenades. Well, it ain't that simple anymore. That Order of Lenin that Granin was talking about is the most prestigious award in the Soviet Union. It's given to individuals, organizations, and cities for outstanding achievements in warfare, science, industry, the arts, and various other fields. You could say it's the highest honor the East has to give. You say Granin was involved in the development of the SS-1C. The SS-1C is the Soviets' newest short-range tactical ballistic missile. Based on what Western intel has been able to gather, it's capable of being launched from a mobile platform.
A mobile platform?
Yeah, it's a transport vehicle that functions as an erector and a launcher. It can travel on roads, then erect and launch a missile from any location. Of course, in addition to conventional explosives, the missiles could also be fitted with chemical or even nuclear warheads.
A nuclear missile that can be launched from any location.
I'll bet it wasn't the missile itself that Granin helped develop. More likely, it was the mobile platform. From what I've heard, the SS-1C is set for actual deployment as early as next year. That's bound to send a chill down NATO's spine. The weapon you've got equipped now is a prototype model of the Mark 22, a suppressor-equipped pistol currently in development by the Navy. It's been modified to act as a tranquilizer gun. The Mark 22 is a heavily modified special ops version of the M39 pistol used as a sidearm by the SEALs. Probably the biggest change from the M39 is that it's got a longer barrel, which allows it to be equipped with a suppressor. And it uses a slide lock mechanism. That makes it a lot quieter, but it also means you have to load a new round into the chamber by hand every time you fire. It's also fitted with tall, adjustable sights, so you can use the front and rear sights to line up your shot even with a suppressor attached.
Looks like they got rid of the magazine safety, too.
Good eye. That feature wasn't too popular with guys like you who know their guns. The shear release lever's been taken off as well, meaning the hammer won't fall even with the safety on.
So I can just cock and lock.
That, and you get the added bonus of not having any mechanical noise from decocking, even with the safety on. The perfect pistol for a sneaking mission, huh? Hey, what's that you've got there?
Thermal goggles. From what I can tell, they detect and display sources of heat.
You're kidding me. They actually made a passive infrared night vision device small enough to carry around with you?
What, is that special or something?
Is it special? Here in the West, we've just barely got the technology to install it on aircraft.
So that's what that thing is they put on the gunship. But doesn't the Army have something like that for driving vehicles at night? I thought I saw...
You mean the ANPAS-5? That's an active infrared night vision device. It fires infrared beams from an infrared projector and uses the reflections to build an image. Those goggles you've got there are completely different. Basically, when you've got those equipped, you'll be able to spot enemy soldiers in the jungle with ease, even if they're camouflaged. They might even help you find traps. But you won't be able to see the terrain as well, so watch your step.
Snake, have you heard about the massacre that happened in the forest near the village of Gnezdovo?
The Katyn Forest Massacre, right?
During World War II, the German army came upon the bodies of 4,000 dead Polish in the forest of Katyn.
Yeah, Germany blamed the Soviet Union, but the Soviet Union denied it, blaming Germany in return.
The truth is that Stalin ordered the NKVD to carry out the killings. And it's not just Katyn. In places like Western Ukraine and Belarus, there must have been at least 20,000 Poles in the prison camps.
Why are you telling me this?
Volgin was one of the people responsible. He was one of the vicious leaders behind it.
Volgin was?
He blamed it on a prisoner revolt to allay any fears, and requested they be put to death. I've heard that Volgin even removed the blindfolds from each prisoner before he beat them to death.
I knew he wasn't all there in the head, but this...
Not someone you could be friends with.
What a strange coincidence, though.
Coincidence?
Well, Rykov's full name is Ivan Rydenovich Rykov.
And?
Ivan is the Russian equivalent of John, and a common nickname for John is Jack. You know, in Russian folklore, the youngest son in a family often receives the shabbiest treatment, but is actually cleverer than his brothers, and has the happiest ending of all. That son is usually named Ivan.
I don't have any brothers.
Really? I could have sworn you had several.
What? Major, what should I do with this wreck of a drone?
Just leave it there.
Are you sure?
Yes.
But isn't this thing top secret?
Yes, it is. After the U-2 spy plane incident 4 years ago, plans were laid out for future spy missions in Soviet airspace to be carried out by an unmanned craft. That craft was the D-21 spy drone, the basis of the one you came in on. The D-21 is launched from a craft called the M-21. The M-21 itself is a derivative of the A-12, a supersonic long-range spy plane currently being developed as the successor to the U-2. However, for this mission, we used a modified YF-12A, a long-range interceptor version of the A-12. After being released from the mothership, the drone can achieve speeds upwards of Mach 3 at high altitude using its ramjet engine. It can't be shot down by ground-to-air missiles, and it's nearly undetectable by radar. With Selinoyarsk in such a high state of alert after our last escapade, this was the only reliable way to get you in.
This is all top-secret military technology. Are you telling me I'm supposed to just leave it here?
That's right.
Why?
The purpose of Operation Snake Eater is to send an American agent into the field in order to eliminate a defector and traitor, namely the boss. Part of that mission involves making sure the Soviets find out what we're doing.
So we have to leave behind some kind of evidence that the U.S. was involved.
Don't worry. The technologically sensitive components of the craft were rigged to self-destruct when it landed. The only thing the Soviets are going to find is a pile of American-made scrap metal.
Got it. Just one thing, though.
What is it?
I think they'd better redesign the landing impact buffer. People are going to get hurt landing that thing.
I'll let them know. The Soviet intelligence community must be up in arms about the boss's defection. The great Voyevoda has abandoned America and embraced the Soviet Union.
Voyevoda?
Apparently, that's what they call the boss behind the Iron Curtain. It means warrior or mighty soldier in Russian. When used to refer to a woman, it means something close to Lady Knight. In Russia, where they've had a number of female emperors throughout their history, it's a term of great respect, well, poetic in a way. The boss's exploits have made her name famous in the East as well.
Major, why did the boss defect?
I don't know, but I will tell you this. America is all too eager to get rid of her.
What do you mean?
She knows too many of our secrets. If she were to relay all the top-secret information she knows to the Soviet bloc, it would put us at a severe disadvantage. It might even lead to the downfall of the West. Even if we survive, the boss is still too much of a hero to us. With her in the Soviet camp, we'd suffer a fatal loss of morale at home. There are even whispers that some of the less stalwart elements of the military might follow her example and defect themselves. I assume you're aware that since your last mission, several key figures within the CIA have been placed under house arrest.
Yeah.
The loss of the boss has been a painful one indeed.
What about you?
Me? I still can't believe it. As a comrade, I would have placed my trust in her before my own family. But now that I think about it, the boss always seemed to have an aura of mystery about her. I never would have expected it to manifest in this way, though. Oh, well, it won't do to get all misty-eyed about it. She's an enemy now, worthy of nothing more than our contempt.
Understood. Major, what's this temptation Eva was talking about?
In the Old Testament of the Bible, Eve was seduced by a snake into tasting the fruit of knowledge. By eating the forbidden fruit, Adam and Eve disobeyed God's command and were cast out from the Garden of Eden. Thus, it was the snake who led mankind into original sin.
Come to think of it, I did break a rib in the virtuous mission. Maybe that's where Eva came from.
But the one who tempted Adam into eating the forbidden fruit was Eve. You may be working together, but she's still a KGB operative. Don't let your guard down.
I don't intend to. Major, I appreciate you allowing me to use weapons, but shouldn't I be carrying some rubles?
You mean fake currency?
Right.
Snake, do you remember the Francis Gary Powers incident back in 1960?
Powers was flying a U-2 on a spy mission for the CIA in Soviet airspace. He was shot down and taken prisoner.
His confession brought to light the fact that the CIA was spying in Soviet airspace. As a result, the US-Soviet summit scheduled for 2 weeks later was cancelled.
Yeah, I remember.
U-2 pilots are required to carry items that mask their identity. Powers was carrying ruble, mark and lira coins, as well as French gold coins. He was also carrying 2 gold watches and 7 women's rings. All of these objects were meant to conceal his national origins. But for this mission, we've got to demonstrate to the Khrushchev regime that America is involved. There's no need to conceal your origins. And besides, all you need to do is complete your mission. As long as you're not captured or killed, the details will take care of themselves.
Okay. Major, tell me a little bit more about the space race.
In 1957, the Soviet Union succeeded in launching their first artificial satellite, Sputnik, into orbit. Having been beaten to the chase by the Soviets, the US government accelerated its own space program in an effort to catch up. The following year, the space development programs of the various service branches were united to form the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA. That same year, the Mercury program was launched with the goal of putting a man into space. 7 candidates were chosen from the military as the first astronauts. These were the men with the right stuff. But as you know, it was a Soviet cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin, who made the first successful manned spaceflight 3 years ago. NASA's first successful ballistic flight came 1 month after Gagarin's mission, with the Freedom 7 carrying Alan Shepard into space. After that, with America still lagging behind the Soviets in orbital flight, President Kennedy made a momentous decision. That America would put a man on the moon before the end of the decade.
Yeah, I heard that speech, but a lot of guys I knew weren't real happy about it. They said no one was going to make them go on a mission to blow up some damn moon base.
But rocket research and missile research are closely related. Imagine, if you will, a Soviet Union able to send wave after wave of nuclear missiles raining down on Washington from a base on the surface of the moon. Even if that's still a long way from reality, if we lose the initiative, we may never get it back. We're left with no choice but to keep moving forward 1 step at a time. The Gemini program, launched 2 years ago, represents the initial step towards establishing a moon base. And yet, I don't want to call President Kennedy a liar, but I simply can't imagine that in 6 years man will have reached the moon.
I don't know. I never even thought we'd make it up into space. I guess it all depends on whether you have the will to make it happen.
Perhaps you're right. Thanks to last week's nuclear incident, the Soviet Union is now on secondary alert. We're 1 step away from a nuclear war.
DEFCON 2, huh?
In American parlance, yes. From what Western intelligence has been able to gather, the radical elements in the Soviet command are showing signs of impatience. They say we're on the brink of World War III here. And with Khrushchev's position getting weaker every day, I worry whether he'll be able to hold them back.
1 week.
Yes, America must eliminate the boss by its own hand to prove its innocence. There is no other way to resolve the crisis. Everything rests on your shoulders, Snake. Failure is not an option.
I know. Major, you said the enemy was KGB, right?
I did.
What unit are they from? The 6th Directorate?
No, the 9th Directorate.
The 9th?
Yes.
But I thought that was...
Exactly. It's the unit that protects the Kremlin and provides bodyguards for high-level VIPs.
But they're assigned to protect party and government figures. I thought that only meant high-ranking officials and their families. And now they're being sent out to stand watch over a field exercise?
That's the idea.
What's really going on?
I don't know. What I do know is that the director of the 9th Directorate is a well-known protégé of Khrushchev. The Premier may have wanted to assign this mission to someone he knew he could trust.
So he can't trust any other units?
Ever since the withdrawal from Cuba, Khrushchev's position has been getting weaker day by day. This secret test is an act of desperation by a cornered man. If nothing else, the completion of Sokolov's new weapon in this test should help re-establish Khrushchev's authority in Moscow.
So what you're saying is, there's also a good chance that whoever doesn't want to see that happen is going to try and interfere.
Most likely, Khrushchev must have anticipated this and sent his most loyal unit, his trump card, to make sure that all goes well.
Major, do you know anything about this GRU colonel Sokolov was talking about?
Yes.
Who is he?
A most dangerous man indeed. His name is Yevgeny Borisovich Volgin. His code name in the West is Thunderbolt. He's gained a reputation as the most brutal and cold-blooded of the Soviet spy masters. During the war, Volgin was assigned to the domestic branch of the NKVD. He was stationed in the rear of the Soviet line to catch and punish any troops who tried to retreat or desert. He's also notorious for his accomplishments in anti-guerrilla operations in the Ukraine and the Baltic states. Apparently, he likes to boast that he disposed of over 100,000 anti-communists. We also know that he was instrumental in putting down the 1953 insurrection in East Germany and the 1956 uprising in Hungary. He is truly a fearsome man. There's no telling what he might be plotting. Be careful.
I will.
The Cynthia that Eva mentioned was a famous lady spy who worked for Britain during the Second World War. Her real name was Amy Elizabeth Thorpe. She was a lovely, intelligent woman, and she used those charms as a weapon to extract numerous secrets from the enemy. They say her most brilliant achievement was getting the French Vichy government's naval ciphers. But don't let yourself be taken in by Eva's charms.
I'll be careful. Major, didn't you say that the boss was in the SAS with you?
Yes, we formed the 22nd SAS Regiment together. When the SAS, the British Special Air Service, was first established, they invited the boss on board as a special advisor. In fact, you might say it was the boss who put together Rayforce and L Detachment, which laid the groundwork for today's SAS. You won't find her name in the history books, but her contributions were many and great.
Yeah, the real heroes are never made public.
Not in our line of work, anyway. The dummy run on Heliopolis and the nighttime raids on German air bases in North Africa were her idea as well. Yes, she was always one step ahead of the rest of us, both in thought and action. It's true what they say. Who dares wins.
The motto of the SAS.
Precisely. The motto itself is a tribute to her service. Needless to say, the SAS has become a model for special forces units all over the world. In that sense, the boss really is the mother of special forces.
Major.
Yes?
I was just wondering, why do they call you Zero?
What do you mean?
We go back a long ways, but I just realized I never asked you why you're called Zero.
You want to know where it comes from?
Yeah, if that's all right.
It's a bit nostalgic, really.
Nostalgic?
The first British intelligence outfit was established in 1909. The head of the Foreign Intelligence Division was a man named Mansfield George Smith Cumming. He was referred to simply as C after the first letter of his last name. Since then, out of respect for Cumming, the heads of the SIS have traditionally taken the name of C.
And James Bond's boss is called M.
That's right. I myself was once known as O.
And that's where 0 comes from?
Precisely. In another sense, though, it signifies a ghost, one whose true identity must remain a mystery, the primogenitor of the solo sneaking operation.
Is that so?
People have been using dogs in wars since before recorded history. The Greek and Roman armies used to send out packs of dogs with spiked collars to charge at enemy ranks. Attack dogs were regularly employed in the First and Second World Wars as well. Traditionally, dogs have been used to keep watch, send messages, and assist in search operations. Then the Soviets came up with a new idea, using them to carry bombs.
Bomb dogs?
Yeah, they were trained to dive beneath tanks carrying a payload of bombs. Apparently it worked pretty well, but the Russians messed up, man. They used their own tanks for the training. Turns out the dogs kept going after Russian tanks and blowing them up, so the plan was scrapped before it got off the ground. Well, I don't think you need to worry about those dogs exploding on you. They don't seem to be the bomb-carrying type. But they are highly trained in tracking and detection. Don't underestimate them. They're excellent trackers and ferocious fighters. Those gun emplacements are DSHKs, a large-caliber machine gun officially adopted by the Soviet Army in 1939. The name DSHK comes from the initials of the two creators, Degtyarev and Shpagin, plus the Russian word for large caliber. They saw a lot of action in World War II. The Russians used them as anti-aircraft and anti-armor guns for position defense, vehicle turrets, and infantry support. The combined weight of the gun and the emplacements is almost 350 pounds, so you can forget about picking one up and taking it with you. The gun is gas-powered and capable of spitting out 550 rounds a minute on a belt feed system, which is bad news for you when the enemy's using it. Hide behind something and lob a grenade at it, or attack it from outside the emplacement's firing angle. Either way, it's not a good idea to rush at it head-on. Or you might try using a smoke grenade to put up a smoke screen that'll cover your approach. The Thompson submachine gun, or Tommy gun, is a submachine gun that saw a lot of action in World War II. That thing can spit out 745 ACP rounds in a minute's time. Its sturdiness and reliability made it popular during the Korean War, and it's still the weapon of choice for a lot of Special Forces units. Sure, it's a little bit old-fashioned, but it still packs a nasty punch. Flying platforms are a type of personal VTOL aircraft.
They were working on those in America, too, weren't they?
Yeah, back in the 50s. They were supposedly going to be used for scouting and patrol missions, as well as to spot for artillery units and transport troops into rough territory. They even got an initial prototype off the ground in 1955. But the thing wasn't fast enough, and there were problems with getting it to stop and turn in midair, so they ended up scrapping the project. The ones you see there were built by the Soviets after they got their hands on the American design plans. The American model used a pair of contra-rotating rotors to generate lift, but those Soviet models seem to be using jet engines instead. They must have kept going with their research after the U.S. abandoned its own project. Now they've finally overtaken us. You gotta give them credit for sticking with it.
Sigint.
Yo.
Eva said she set up a ground effect vehicle for us to make our escape.
So I heard. The ground effect vehicle, or WIG, is something like a cross between an airplane and a boat. It uses ground effect to fly. Ground effect basically means that when the craft skims the surface of the ground, the air between the ground and the wing is compressed, which gives the wing an extra boost. From what Western intelligence agencies have been able to gather, the Russians are pretty serious about developing these WIGs. Apparently they're planning on using them for anti-submarine patrols. I guess I can see why. The WIG's long cruising range and high-speed capabilities make it a good choice for that kind of mission. Eva must have gotten her hands on one of the first prototypes while it was being field tested as a transport craft. The WIG has a top speed of over 400 miles per hour, and its range is pretty good too. Not that speed is going to help you if you've got a supersonic fighter jet on your tail, but if you hug the surface and stay off the radar, you should have no problems getting away. Snake, that's an MAZ-535, a Soviet-built 8-axle tractor truck. During World War II, most of the heavy transport trucks the Soviets used were supplied by the U.S. But apparently their performance wasn't quite up to the standards of the Soviet military. The problem only got worse after the war as the size of the Soviet strategical rocket forces grew larger. The Soviets realized they needed a heavy transport truck with excellent cross-country capability to haul their ballistic missiles. So in 1954, they started work on a new truck design over at the SKB MAZ Design Bureau in Minsk, Belarus. What they came up with was the MAZ 535 you see there. There are a lot of variations on the MAZ 535. What do the headlights look like on that one?
It's got two of them.
Then it must be one of the later production models. The early ones were equipped with infrared lamps. Snake, you've got a...
I know. It's some new kind of rifle out of the West. Looks kind of like a black rifle.
No, it's not an AR-15. It's an XM-16E1, a top-of-the-line rifle that the Army adopted recently on a trial basis. The U.S. military was working on a new concept for a light infantry weapon from the late 40s through the mid-50s. In the end, they decided they wanted a .22 caliber high muzzle velocity rifle with full auto capability. What they came up with was the AR-15, the so-called black rifle. The one you've got there, the XM-16E1, is a modified AR-15 that's been fitted with a bolt forward assist. I heard they're doing performance evaluations down in Southeast Asia.
So they captured one in Vietnam and brought it here?
That's my guess. But that thing looks a lot different from a regular XM-16E1. There must have been a gunsmith present at the field test who made all these modifications on the spot. The fact that it's painted in camouflage colors shows that more and more people these days are starting to realize the importance of camouflage.
They made it so it takes a suppressor, too.
Yep, that's a nice feature to have for a recon unit on a sneaking mission deep in enemy territory. You can attach and detach the suppressor by opening the weapon window and pressing the enter button. Oh, and the firing mechanism's been modified to enable 3-shot bursts.
Why the hell would they do that?
These days, a lot of new recruits aren't used to firing in full auto mode. They have no trigger control and end up emptying the whole clip at once. Maybe they were experimenting with ways to prevent that and came up with the burst mechanism as a possible solution.
Stupid idea, if you ask me.
Hey, give it a chance. It might come in handy. Open the weapon window and press the action button to switch between semi-auto, full auto, and 3-shot burst modes. Have fun with that. Looks like you've got some TNT. TNT is short for trinitrotoluene, a pale yellow crystalline compound made from a trinitrified mix of nitric acid and sulfuric acid. It's used throughout the world as a military explosive. It has a low sensitivity and is chemically stable, making it easy to handle. It's also got a low melting point and can easily be shaped by boiling or steaming it. But because the sensitivity is so low, you need a booster to actually get it to explode.
No problem. It came with its own remote control detonator.
Good. Then all you have to do is press the weapon button to place the TNT, and then press the CQC button to set it off. The map screen in the survival viewer will display the locations where you've planted TNT. What you got there, Snake?
Some kind of drug. The label says pentazamine.
Pentazamine? What the hell is that?
Beats me.
Let's ask paramedic. Yo, paramedic!
Yeah?
You ever heard of a drug called pentazamine?
Yeah, it's an anti-anxiety drug related to benzodiazepine. It's a minor tranquilizer used to treat things like depression, autonomic ataxia, and aporioneurosis and things like that. Besides its calming and antidepressant properties, it's also known for its anticonvulsant effect.
Anticonvulsant effect?
Yeah.
So in other words, it can help keep your hands from shaking.
Yeah, I guess so.
This could be useful.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. I just thought that if I took this drug when I used a sniper rifle, it'd help make my aim steadier.
Oh, I see. That's an interesting idea. I think it might work. Give it a try.
You know that army motorcycle that Eva was riding? That's a replica of a German model.
A replica?
Yeah. After World War II, the Soviets confiscated an entire assembly line from a German motorcycle factory, machines and all.
And then they took it back with them and started producing replicas?
Exactly. Originally, that motorcycle was designed to be used with a sidecar attached. That means it's got enough power to drag a 200-plus pound sidecar around.
So that's how she could pull off all those crazy stunts.
Uh-huh. Of course, it takes a lot of skill to be able to control that much power. That Eva chick is something else.
Tell me something, Sigint.
What's that?
What does Sigint mean, anyway?
It's short for signal intelligence.
Signal intelligence?
The part of intelligence that deals with electronic information. Things like intercepting and analyzing electronic communications, determining enemy force strength and positioning from radar emissions and radio chatter. You get the idea. Code breaking is considered part of SIGINT as well. 40 years from now, we'll be in the age of electronic warfare. It won't be long before information replaces firepower as the most valuable commodity on the battlefield.
So you're saying they won't need guys like me anymore?
Sorry to break it to you, but that's not going to happen. No matter how advanced our technology gets, there's still no substitute for human beings. Anyway, the Major is a man of foresight. He knew the electronic age was coming, and so he called out to me.
And you responded?
Well, I didn't have any place else to go.
You couldn't find a job?
Nope. None of the places where they do this kind of high-tech research would even let me in the door.
Why not? I know you've got social problems, but...
Come again?
Nothing. I mean, someone with your talent ought to be able to...
Yeah, well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that I'm black. The Major, though, he doesn't care about what color you are. I've never met anyone like him before. He's different, you know?
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't think racism's going to go away even in the 21st century. But I want to work with computers and use them to bring people closer together. In the digital world, it doesn't matter whether you're black or white, American or Russian or whatever. Everybody's going to be the same. That's what I think.
Snake, have you heard of It Came from Outer Space?
Yeah, you told me already.
So this astronomer sees a meteor, but it's really an alien spaceship, right? And the aliens start replacing the townspeople with clones and forcing them to help repair the ship. The 3D effects were quite realistic.
I've got all the real I can handle here in the jungle.
No, you don't get it. Precisely because it's realistic, with the images jumping out of the screen at you. It makes for a nice escape from reality. I have to admit it made my eyes tired, but it was really intense. Unfortunately, they don't make very many of those movies anymore.
When did it come out?
I was still in college, so probably about 10 years ago.
Guess I'm out of luck then.
You know, they're coming out with household versions of video cassette recorders. One day you'll be able to see old movies anytime you want. It'll be like having a movie theater in your own home.
Really?
It's like if you had a record with movie film etched onto it instead of music. It'll work the same way.
You're kidding.
No, really. And someday they might make movies where you control the characters yourself.
Sounds like magic.
It'll happen. Make sure you stay alive to see it, Snake. Hey, Snake, have you ever seen Forbidden Planet?
No, can't say I have.
It's about this expedition that goes to the planet Altair 4 in an ultra-fast spaceship. When they arrive, they meet the survivor of the last expedition, Dr. Morbius. Dr. Morbius was exploring the planet along with his daughter Altera and the versatile Robbie the robot. Ignoring the doctor's warnings, the expedition team is suddenly attacked by an invisible creature called the Monster from the Id. The special effects they used for the science stuff were really neat. I wish I had a robot like Robbie that could make anything I wanted it to.
I'm more interested in that invisible monster. If I were invisible, I wouldn't have to bother hiding or wearing camouflage.
Maybe someday you'll be able to turn invisible.
Yeah, that'll be the day.
Snake, have you ever seen the War of the Worlds?
No.
These flying saucers from Mars arrive on Earth disguised as meteorites. The saucers use their heat rays to attack the nearby towns. And then...
Something wrong?
The thing is, I was too scared to watch. I had my eyes shut almost the whole time.
Then you haven't seen it.
No, it's not that. It's based on a novel by H.G. Wells.
You haven't seen it, have you?
That does remind me, though. When I was 2 years old, my father listened to the radio drama version of the story. It was right after dinner on Sunday, and we were relaxing in the living room. They said monsters had come out of a meteorite that landed in New Jersey. It sounded just like a real live news broadcast. My father said he and my older brother actually believed it and started yelling and panicking. My mother supposedly grabbed me from my crib and took me out to the car, still wrapped up in blankets. But then, just as my dad was about to start the car, he realized that it was all just a radio drama. Because on the car's radio, they were playing Bing Crosby tunes. No matter what station he turned to, no one else seemed to be reporting on this big history-making news story.
Sounds like something out of the big broadcast.
Nobody said a word. We all went back to our rooms. My father and brother got off with a scolding from my mother, but I was the one who really suffered. After that incident, every time I acted up, my father and brother would scare me by saying, "The Martians are coming!"
That's terrible.
Isn't it, though?
So, you haven't seen the movie?
I saw it. So even nuclear weapons wouldn't work against the Martian war machines.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, Snake, if you conceal yourself like the Martians did, the enemy won't know what hit them.
Conceal myself.
Maybe not in a meteorite, but if you can hide yourself inside something a little more close at hand.
Close at hand.
Something like a box.
Ah, I get it. So, you never saw the movie.
I saw it, all right? Snake, have you seen Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb?
What?
Dr. Strangelove. Have you seen it?
No.
It's about this insane American Air Force commander who sends a bomber out to drop an H-bomb on Russia. It's a black comedy.
Doesn't sound very funny to me.
The actor who plays Dr. Strangelove also plays two of the other main characters. It's actually kind of funny once you get past the scary parts. It just came out this year, so I bet you could still go and see it.
Maybe when I'm in a lighter state of mind, I'll give it a try.
Snake, have you ever seen The Guns of Navarone?
Never.
It's about a mission to blow up the huge guns on the island of Navarone during World War II. 6 men are chosen to participate in the operation, each with his own special ability. They only have until an English destroyer passes by the island to complete their mission. Facing impossible odds, the 6 men have to sneak onto the island from a cliff on the southern shore.
That doesn't sound like something I'd want to watch in my free time.
Maybe not for you, but the Major was absolutely crazy about it.
The Major?
He told me to tell you how great it was.
Tell him I'll go see it as soon as I get back to the States.
Do you want to tell him yourself?
No, let's save that for later. I'd better get back to the mission.
Yeah. Snake, have you ever seen North by Northwest?
Missed that one.
It's about this ordinary guy who runs an ad agency. He's mistaken for someone else and gets kidnapped and forced to do a certain job. As a result, he gets tangled up in a conspiracy, and pretty soon he's traveling to New York, Chicago, and even Mount Rushmore in pursuit of the real culprit. Hitchcock's films always keep you on the edge of your seat, but sometimes they can be funny when you least expect it. That's why I love them.
Have you seen all of his films?
All of them? Oh, not even close. He's been making movies since before I was born. I guess I might have seen some of them on TV. But the first movie I ever saw in the theater was a Hitchcock film. We all went and saw it as a family. It was Rebecca.
This was when you were a kid?
Yeah, my parents loved watching movies, so they took me along. I didn't quite understand the plot, but for some reason I thought it was really scary. Actually, I remember the candy bar they bought me on the way home better than the movie itself.
That's when you fell in love with movies?
You could say that. It was like an irresistible force at that point. I was completely swept away. Snake, you know the bridge on the River Kwai?
Haven't seen it.
It's about a group of Allied prisoners in Japanese-occupied Burma in World War II who worked together to build a bridge. Under the leadership of an English officer, the prisoners and the Japanese gradually bring the project toward completion. But at the same time, the Allied forces are hatching a plan to blow up the bridge.
War and futility go hand in hand.
I suppose so.
I didn't think you were the type to go for war movies, though.
Actually, this guy invited me to go see it with him.
A date?
I guess you could call it that.
Still, you just don't seem like the type.
Well, he seemed to like war movies. He was a Navy boy. I was still an intern back then. They brought him in with a broken leg. He said, "When I'm all healed up, will you go see a movie with me to celebrate? If it's okay." He was so shy.
Where is he now?
With the 7th Fleet.
I see.
Snake, have you ever seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
No, I haven't.
It's about this town where one by one the people disappear and are replaced by someone else. It keeps getting worse and worse until finally the main character's friends and family start getting replaced. It turns out it was a giant plant thing producing human clones. Creepy, huh?
Clones?
A clone is a body or cell that's genetically identical to another one. They didn't use that term in the movie, though.
You mean a copy of a human being?
It's technologically feasible. We know it's possible to do it in theory, and they've already started the research. One day, maybe toward the beginning of the next century, the genes of super soldiers like you are going to be a hot commodity.
Just to make copies of me?
Precisely.
Like a thoroughbred horse.
Right.
Huh.
Hmm.
You know they'd never allow it.
Maybe, but technology changes people. We can't predict how people will think 50 years from now.
Some things shouldn't be changed.
We're not the ones who decide that. I think maybe the only thing we can do is to try and pass on our beliefs to our children, so that they won't head in the wrong direction. Snake, have you ever seen The Alamo?
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's a true story about a band of American volunteers holed up in a fort called The Alamo. They fight against the Mexican army for the freedom of Texas.
Remember the Alamo.
Now the Alamo is Los Alamos, the center of the atomic bomb project.
How ironic.
Hey, Snake, have you ever seen Frankenstein?
No.
The scientist, Dr. Frankenstein, succeeds in creating a human being out of dead body parts. But his creation escapes from the laboratory and heads down to the nearby town. The creature is physically strong, but mentally he's like an innocent child. So his emotions drive him to kill people, and he doesn't even understand what he's doing. The scene where he's playing with flowers with a little girl by the side of a lake sent chills down my spine.
A classic tale about the dangers of rapid scientific progress. When human beings become too powerful, they lose their ability to think rationally.
Really makes you think, doesn't it? Especially nowadays.
Hunters have known about camouflage since ancient times. But it's only quite recently, since the 18th century, that it's been applied to military operations. The first camouflage introduced to the military was a solid-colored uniform designed to blend in with the battlefield. It was really more of a protective coloring than true camouflage. Camouflage in the modern sense of the word wasn't introduced until the First World War. During that war, weapons such as aircraft, cannon, and warships were painted in camouflage colors. But it was almost never used to disguise individual soldiers. The widespread use of camouflage began in World War II. The Germans and the Russians in particular made active use of it in battle. Nowadays, with the Cold War raging, the Eastern Bloc has been hard at work developing all sorts of camouflage patterns. In the West, the French implemented it in their paratrooper corps, and SAS during the wars of independence in Indochina.
I never saw it used in Korea, though.
America has lagged behind other countries in incorporating camouflage. They're only just beginning to consider introducing it into certain units.
Why is that?
Apparently, there are those in the U.S. military who consider camouflage too passive a technique.
Morons.
You're telling me. But now more and more people are beginning to appreciate how useful and important camouflage can be. I'm sure the brass will see the light soon enough.
Wait a second.
What is it?
The higher my stamina, the faster my battery recharges?
That's what I said.
But what does my stamina have to do with the battery?
Oh, yes, I see what you're getting at. Let's have Paramedic explain that. Paramedic?
Yes, sir. It's because Snake's battery uses bioelectricity.
Bioelectricity.
Bioelectricity is electricity emitted from cells. When the cells of living things are stimulated, sodium and potassium ions move rapidly through the cell membrane's ion channel, creating a difference in electric potential. The battery uses that energy to recharge. So unless your cells have plenty of nutrients, the recharge won't work well.
Amazing the kind of machines that are available now.
But this machine has not been made public. It was designed by a scientist at the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology.
What kind of person was he?
The person who designed it?
Yeah.
I heard he was pretty strange.
Stranger than the Major?
There's nothing strange about the Major.
My tea's gone. Who drank it? How am I supposed to have tea time without tea?
Well, not too strange, at least.
Hey, my scone's gone too. In the 2 years since Sokolov's asylum operation, I've spent all my time making preparations. And now is the time to show some results. Fox is a next-generation espionage organization designed to update us for 21st century operations that I propose to the CIA. Fox sends individuals who excel in espionage and special tactics on solo sneaking missions like this one. A next-generation unit that combines the skills of Special Forces units like the SAS and Green Berets with the know-how of an infiltration and espionage unit.
Military politics never was my strong suit.
What I'm trying to say is stealth. This is a stealth mission, crucial to the coming Cold War. The CIA director has always frowned upon Fox, but if this mission succeeds, Fox will be added to the CIA as an official unit. I intend to make Fox the leader in special operations. And to that end, this mission must succeed.
Right.
I'm counting on you, Snake. Snake, I've completed the double check on the Fulton recovery system.
Any problems?
None. Leave your recovery to us.
Excellent.
I suppose I should explain the procedure once more before the actual maneuver.
No.
I see. Well, the Fulton recovery system allows for rapid recovery of personnel from enemy territory, and it's perfect for these kinds of special operations. Basically, how it works is the plane flies by and snags a nylon lift line that the soldier has grabbed onto, and that's been elevated by a balloon. The Fulton recovery system was first designed in the 1940s as a method of picking up mail for the American Postal Service. During the Korean War, that system was redesigned to recover personnel. JAC, an ancillary organization to the CIA. Yes, good old JAC. It stands for Joint Advisory Commission Korea. Isn't that something? So, JAC first used the Fulton surface-to-air recovery system to extract agents from North Korea and mainland China. Let's go over the procedure once more, to be on the safe side. First, the plane drops a canister about the size of a coffin to you. Inside, you'll find a balloon, a 1,500-foot cable, and a harness that attaches to your suit. Take the items out, attach the line to your suit, fill the balloon with helium, and send the line up. The plane will approach at 125 miles per hour. Snag the cable just below the balloon with a hook on the nose of the aircraft, and whisk you away. Assuming the pickup is successful, you'll be reeled in with a winch and pulled to safety into the rear of the aircraft. Got it? Snake?
Yeah, I got it. I got it real good.
Were you listening?
Yeah.
All right, then. You did an excellent halo jump.
Not really. I didn't land in the right spot. A jumper who lost his pack on the first real halo jump. That'll make a good story for you.
Who cares? There are no records of your operations.
I know, but...
What, you're embarrassed?
No, I'm not embarrassed.
It's the boss, isn't it?
What about the boss?
Nothing, paramedic.
Doesn't sound like nothing.
Nothing to do with the boss, I mean.
It has something to do with the boss, but you don't want to say so.
Yeah, kinda.
I understand, Snake.
The boss has done a lot of work on the military study of halo jumps. And Snake here wanted to give a perfect performance on the first real jump, to show respect to the mother of the technique.
Major!
Snake, I thought you were over and out.
Wow, is that right?
You got something to say.
No.
I bet you do.
Not really. I just think it's kind of sweet of you to think like that.
I don't know whether to take that as a compliment or an insult.
It's a compliment, Snake. So tell me, is it true?
What?
Not that. Is it true that the boss really worked on research for halo jumps?
Oh, that.
Yes, it's true. Halo stands for High Altitude Low Opening. It's a jump technique developed for covert insertions into enemy territory, just like the area you're in. A plane flies at 10,000 feet or above to avoid detection by ground forces, and the jumper free falls until he's within 1,000-foot altitude above the target area, when he finally opens his chute. By using this technique, the chances of revealing the parachute landing to the enemy are marginal. The halo technique was originally developed in France. This was partly due to popularity of parachuting as a sport since the end of World War II. And the boss was an instructor for the research that was carried out there. In 1957, at the JFK Special Operations Center at Fort Bragg, the boss was invited to instruct at the first ever U.S. military halo school. Of course, none of this is on the record, but she's the mother of modern-day special forces.
Diablo, what now?
Yabloko Maloko. It's a Russian name that roughly translates as milk apple. It's a type of star apple. The juice is thick and sweet, like milk, hence the name. And if you cut one in half lengthwise, you'll see a star-shaped ring radiating out from the center.
Hence the star apple.
Right. The star-shaped part has a gelatinous texture and is said to be especially tasty. Snake, do you know what epinephrine is?
What's with the questions?
Well, do you?
No.
Also known as adrenaline?
Never heard of it.
Really?
Nope.
I have.
Good for you.
Do you want to hear about it?
Not really.
Oh, I think you should hear about it.
Here we go.
So, epinephrine is a type of hormone. It's secreted from the adrenal glands in high-stress situations, like when you're exercising or you're under pressure. The epinephrine is released into the bloodstream and stimulates special receptor cells on various organs throughout the body. This causes the heart to beat faster, the blood vessels to constrict, and the respiratory passages to expand. It also raises blood pressure. You ever notice how you're faster and stronger than normal when you're under stress? That's because of epinephrine, and when you're bleeding,
Paramedic.
Yeah.
Is there a point to all of this?
Of course. In the alert phase, your body secretes epinephrine, and so your stamina won't be depleted as fast.
Uh-huh.
There. Good thing I told you, huh?
As always.